Hello and welcome everyone. Guys, I've been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube and I've been reading some articles on the internet related to marriage. And I was shocked to see that in almost 90% videos, the techniques of predicting marriage through astrology are discussed in a wrong manner. Most of the astrologers who are creating videos, they are predicting the marriage from the D1 chart, which is this one. Okay? But that is absolutely wrong. Marriage cannot come from D1. That is why I decided to make this video so that I can share the real knowledge with you. No one can predict marriage from the natal chart or the D1 chart. Marriage has to be analyzed, marriage has to be predicted from the D9 chart or the Navansh chart. Now, this video is for advanced students, students who know the basics of astrology. So, let us understand this. Now, whenever I see any astrologer who's creating a video and they're trying to predict the marriage from D1, I don't feel good about it because that's wrong. In the Vedic astrology system, always and always the marriage is analyzed from the D9 chart or the Navansh chart. The profession is analyzed from the D10 chart or the Dashansh chart. Most of the astrologers, even when they are giving the consultation, they are analyzing profession from this house, 10th house, from the natal chart. Although you can get a brief idea, you can get an outlook if you analyze marriage from the 7th house of D1 chart and profession from the 10th house of D1 chart. You cannot predict accurately what exactly will be the profession, how the professional life will be, and how the uh, married life will be from the D1 chart. That is why in the Vedic system, different charts of different vargas have been created. So the varga for marriage is the Navansh, the varga for profession is the Dashansh or the D10 chart. If you try to predict marriage from D1, it will always be wrong because marriage cannot come from D1. Okay, let's take an example of this particular horoscope right over here. Now, we all know that from D1, if you see any kind of a partnership, you look at the seventh house, right? So, this is the seventh house right over here. And since marriage is the biggest partnership of life, then you see marriage from the seventh house as well. But if you look at the seventh house of the D1 chart, we have Mercury sitting over here, and this Mercury is aspecting the Lagna. Okay, so it's aspecting the Lagna from the seventh aspect or the seventh drishti. So from D1 chart, we can say that this particular person, he has a desire to get married. Okay. But if you look at the D9 chart, in D9 chart, in the Lagna, there are two malefic planets situated, which are Mars and Saturn. And then they are aspecting at the seventh house of D9 chart, which is the actual house of marriage. Now, two malefics are aspecting the seventh house of the D9 chart, and this is showing, first of all, that this particular individual doesn't have a desire to get married. That's the first thing. And the second thing is there will be a lot of trouble when the person will get married. So for the happening of marriage, there's going to be a lot of problem with this individual. Now, do you see how conflicting these two predictions are? The Lagna, the D1 chart or the natal chart is saying that the person has a desire to get married and the marriage will also happen easily. That's the prediction from the D1 chart. But the Navansh, the D9 chart over here, it's saying completely opposite. The Navansh chart is saying that the person doesn't have the desire to get married, and when he does get married, there will be a lot of problems in the happening of marriage. Okay, that's what we can see from the D9 chart. Now, which one is correct? Obviously, the D9 chart will show you the true picture of married life. Now, if you look at the Lord of the seventh house in the D1 chart, we have Saturn over here. And since Saturn is sitting with Jupiter in its own house, we can say that there will be troubles in maintaining the marriage, but somehow the marriage may get maintained. Although there we will apply some other rules also in order to see the overall marriage. But over here we can see that since it is aspected by Jupiter, it's conjunct with Jupiter and it is sitting in his own house, then maybe there may be some issues, but overall, the person will be able to maintain his marriage. Now, if you see from the 10th house, we have Mars over here, right? Now, Mars is not related to marriage in this particular horoscope, but Mars is aspecting the fourth house, and Ketu, which is a malefic planet, again is sitting in the fourth house. So we can say that there will be some issues with the house and the happiness of the individual, and we can relate it to marriage as well, right? Now over here, if we see in the D9 chart, we have Mars as the Lord of seventh house, and Mars in this house is sitting in the Lagna and it is conjunct with Saturn, right? So the Lord of marriage is conjunct with a malefic, but it is aspecting also its own house. So there will be troubles in getting marriage. The native will not be interested to get married. When he does get married, he will be he will not be able to maintain the marriage to its full extent. Okay? So the marriage will happen, but the individual will not be interested in getting married. That's the first thing. And then when he does get married, he will be able to maintain the marriage up to some extent, but not to its full extent. So we can say that the married life will be troubled, and this analysis we are doing from the D9 chart. From D1, it is looking okay. Okay, from D1 we can see that the individual will be interested in getting married, and he will be able to maintain the marriage somehow. But from the D9, the interpretation is a little different. From the D9, the individual will not be interested in getting married, and when he does get married, he will have to work very hard in order to maintain the married the married life. So always when you're talking about marriage life, you will give preference to the D9 chart and not the D1 chart. This particular chart, the Navans chart, is the chart from where you can predict each and everything related to the married life. That thing you cannot do from the seventh house of D1 because it represents so many things. It represents your partnerships, it represents your daily wages, it also represents your marriage. But the detailed chart for the marriage is always the Navansh. You want to see how the finances of the family will be after the individual gets married. You look at the second house, you analyze this house, right? You want to see the situation of a divorce, you look at the eighth house. And this is how you can, eighth house in the D1 chart is obstacles in your life. Similarly, the eighth house in the D1 chart represents obstacles in your life. Similarly, the eighth house in the D9 chart represents the obstacles in the married life. Eighth house in the D10 chart will represent the obstacles in your professional life. So, whenever you are analyzing a particular area of life, you need to give preference to that Varga or that division. I hope you like this video. Stay tuned for more interesting videos on Vedic astrology where we'll be discussing rare techniques and the proper techniques. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video.